Good morning, everybody.
We're still on a stream. Oh, okay.
You know, I was just thinking that what we should have done at the end of that opening was say good night, folks. See you next week. That would have been an April Fool and a half. That one.
It's like, what was that?
Hello.
Hello,
That
everybody.
was courtesy of File 13, everybody. File 13 graphics.
Very
Check
good.
him out. File
Yep,
13 graphics. So
You
good
got a
morning,
mouthful of food. What
everybody.
you kind of garbled there, dude?
Yeah, I got some Planters peanuts. We're not sponsored by Planters. I have Planters peanuts. Yeah, honey roasted.
Huh?
Oh, lovely honey roasted peanuts.
Not a
Yes.
sponsor.
There you go.
Other
There you
brands are available.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All
Time
right.
Profit. Good morning, Time Profit. Good afternoon. I
Mhm.
mean, April Fool is over after 12 a.m. Surely. Yeah.
No. Fortunately, this is 12 a.m. is like tonight, about
Yeah.
12 hours. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anything can happen till then. So there you go.
Oh, holy smokes.
Including
So-
somebody trying to tell us that Bruce Campbell's the new Doctor Who, which is bullshit.
I would love to see that. That would make for some great.
I would love
Doctor
to
Who
see it,
stuff.
but it just
Oh my God!
it's
Yeah.
not on the progressive stack. Nobody on that's not on the progressive stack is going
Someone
to do anything
posted.
to the
Someone
BBC right
posted. Someone posted Indiana Jones and the Legion of Doom
Yeah,
with
that was
talking
me.
animal on it. That was freaking awesome.
That was me.
Oh, I got to say, good job, buddy. That was awesome.
I saw it on Facebook, and I thought I'm going to share that because that's hilarious. That's it. What a rush!
By the way, Time Profit, that's Telebunny, not Trans Bunny. So
Transmission,
I guess
transistor,
it's definitely not the other thing.
transatlantic.
Trans Am?
I
Trans
can
Am?
barely stand women. I'm definitely not wanting to become one. Okay.
Oh, there we go. Time Profit. Yeah, he's always good for stuff. I'd like to see Willie P as the new Doctor Who. That would be interesting. That would be pretty good.
That'd be him walking around an hour going, "You're a dumbass. You're a dumbass, and you're definitely a dumbass."
You know, he'd be over there with his. He'd be over there with his reconstituted sonic screwdriver, trying to eliminate people.
You
As
turned
long as
the
he doesn't
TARDIS
fly the TARDIS, as long as he doesn't fly the TARDIS like his helicopter games, he's okay.
Yeah, it'd be all time and space, and have parts of it everywhere. They turned the TARDIS into like a tamale truck. Yeah.
Oh,
Good thing he is muted.
oh my God!
That's what I say. We can't hear
Is he
you.
muted?
Willie.
He's not muted on my end. He must be muted
Oh.
on his end.
Yeah. Hey, while he can't respond, let's have
He's
fun.
probably
with this.
just got it.
Go
shut off
ahead.
on purpose.
Oh, there he is.
Go ahead.
Damn it.
Try
Damn
it. Try it.
There he is.
Try it.
That is
There
fun.
Hell yeah. I'd love to do something like that. Doctor Who? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
An American Doctor Who would be very interesting, I think.
Well, they tried
You know,
that.
take some of that.
That didn't work out.
It would be. Yeah,
Did
they
the old
really?
Time Profit.
Yeah,
The
they
TARDIS
did.
was
That's what
certainly
number 8
crashed
was.
before
It was an American reboot of Doctor Who,
Oh, there you go.
and it did not go well. So
What is it called?
Well,
Oh, who was in that?
it's a Doctor Who, the pilot, I guess.
was that the movie that with
Yeah,
Paul McGann
yeah,
back
yeah.
in the 90s?
Paul McGann? That was
Yeah,
an American
oh,
attempt.
Yeah, that was
Is it-
my first introduction to Doctor Who officially.
Oh,
but
really?
it
Wow!
wasn't-
And you came back. Awesome.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it
That's how
wasn't
Eric
as-
Roberts became the master for a little while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eric Roberts. Eric freaking Roberts. Are you serious?
Eric Roberts was the
I know.
best. So
Right.
yeah,
He-
it wasn't bad. I think Paul
One
McGann
was
got
mildly
shortchanged
constipated.
though.
What's that?
I think Paul McGann as a doctor, he got shortchanged after that.
Well, to be honest, he actually went over to the audio part of Doctor Who and had a very successful run over there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the Doctor Who thing. Yeah, I'm looking at this all-American Doctor Who, and no one would want to watch this.
no.
No way.
No,
Now,
it sucks.
I'm talking about a Doctor Who that wears a nice fucking nice suit, freaking Italian 2-button, you know what I mean? With a vest, that kind of stuff.
Well, they tried that with Davidson, I think. Yeah.
That would be so. I mean, this looks like it shows some kid with a backwards hat. Like it looks like some kid. When was this? You know what? I might watch this just for the hell of it. But hey, I watch whatever.
Well, I'm not even gonna give this new guy a shot. I mean, there's no way that he's gonna be anything anybody I want to watch. Yeah, I'm sorry, because BBC wouldn't even look at him unless his politics were right. So,
possibly, yeah. Possibly. So what's everybody doing on this April Fool's Day? Everybody just kicking it. You're on the stream, so
obviously,
I'm slumming it over here. What can I say?
Slumming it.
Slumming it, yeah.
Jesus Christ, buddy. I'm waiting like in a couple of seconds. They're going to be like, hey, sir, you've been here for 2 days, sir.
350 subs are slumming it over here.
Yeah.
Hey, sir, you got to get moving along. You're taking up the Wi-Fi. Move along.
Yeah.
God damn
these jamming it up.
What do they call homeless people? Vagrants. Vagrants. Yeah, it's vagrant. Yeah, let's go, vagrant bunny. Move along. Move along.
Vagrant bunny. Oh shit.
Yeah, I think it's called loitering. I'm loitering. There you go.
Loitering with intent.
Loitering with intent. There you go.
What the hell?
Hey, as long as I don't whip anything out, I'm good. Okay?
The time critic.
No, please don't.
The time critic.
Please don't.
Wookie is a professional. He hasn't got his red and white sex toy on the screen. LOL.
There you go.
Oh my God. He means red and black.
He misses me, Zol. Did you miss me, Type Prophet? Is that what it is?
He
just
misses
so.
Yeah,
I think so.
He misses the weekend.
I'm here
stream.
instead for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Abby, somebody. Yeah.
He must be a friend from way back because he just knows how to hit you.
He's I know him very well. I know him very well.
It's just only the friends that know the really good insults.
The good juicy bits.
The really ones that just it's like, ow, I kind of felt that one. Anybody else can cuss you out, but they know the one that hit you, you know. Okay, Stumpy. That happened in 5th grade. Shut up.
Here's the Time Prophet. Willie P, does your microphone do 3 speeds?
Hey, send Time Prophet a link to tell him to jump on.
I
always love talking. I know. Why do you got to keep fucking with me, Time Prophet? It's always Time Prophet. You know what? I know he means it, and it's all in fun. So
yeah. You know, I think he might have a crush on you. It's kind of like the girl dipping the pigtails in the inkwell kind of thing.
No, it's not. No way.
No, it's not.
No way. No. Fuck no. Dude, motherfucking Time Prophets is a stud. All right.
Maybe he has something for bald-headed men. I don't know.
He's good. Man.
Time Prophet is listen. That's why he's got that little hood thing. He doesn't want to let anybody know the truth.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's actually,
but sometimes he's a little prick though.
Oh, he's probably one of those alien hybrids that he has to hide out behind his cloak and mask.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. So Supernatural.
I don't know. Let's talk about the Phoenix Lights.
Phoenix Lights.
Oh yeah.
We're going to Alien already?
Why not? Why not?
How's that Supernatural?
I thought we were going to go land first. Land,
Okay,
sea, and
sure,
air.
fine. We'll go
What
land,
do we?
sea, air.
Or we can do
Okay,
all
I
of them.
got one for you. Supernatural.
Go,
I got
go,
one
go.
for you. Air,
Go.
air. All right.
Go.
Near me is a place called Brown Mountain, and Brown Mountain has the most consistent visual apparition. One of the most visual, consistent visual apparitions on the planet. You can look it up, and they'll have pictures. They'll have videos of it. But these globes appear that nobody knows why. They've been studying it for hundreds of years now, and nobody still has a clue why this happens. But they're called the Brown Mountain Lights, and there's like all sorts of lore going back to slaves running from their masters, and Indian braves that died on the mountain, and their squaws are still looking for them with lanterns or torches and lanterns held high. It's all sorts of like lore like that. But it's the most consistent visual apparition on the planet, and it's nobody even talks about it. But yeah, they go everywhere else. But the Brown Mountain Lights, I mean, I have a stepbrother that went up there, and he's like a big horror aficionado. I'm big, okay, and he comes back wasn't late one Saturday night. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock, right? And he's white as a sheet. And he'd gone up there like weekend after weekend after weekend looking for these suckers, right? And he comes home. Usually came home like on a Sunday night, but he came on the Saturday night, white as a sheet. Wouldn't talk about it. Still hasn't to this day. But he evidently found him what he was looking for up there. But yeah, I mean, there's been like people said Geiger counters have gone off when they've come by. Maybe it's like a radioactive, but then again, there's other people that have seen them and not had any Geiger readings at all. So, nobody knows what they are, but they're a consistent apparition. Yeah, just Google it on YouTube; it'll come right up. And
is it kind of like that Skinwalker Ranch stuff? Because there's like a laundry list of weird stuff that happens there.
The Sci-Fi Channel. So I know what he's talking about. The Sci-Fi Channel actually they try to do a debunk on this.
Yeah.
And so you can actually see it from from a road. It's clearly visible. It looks like as if somebody's pointing a flashlight. It looks like an orb just there, right? So what they did was like, okay, so we're gonna stay here where we see it, and you just keep going as much as you can go and as far as you can and everything. They could never find the point of origin. And there was never a point of origin. And they're like, we cannot figure out how this is happening. So, yeah, I've seen that before. And it's pretty interesting that you can see it. It looks like a flashlight. That's all I can say. Like an orb, like a sun, but there's no outer edges, no nothing. It's more like a flashlight. And there's no point of origin.
No,
it is pretty interesting. Yeah.
And it'll move from one ridge to another way too fast for a human to do it.
Right.
And I mean, this was like the Sci-Fi Channel, and they debunked everything, but they came up there and they're like, we don't know. But it's the most consistent visual apparition on the planet. And it's North Carolina, Brown Mountain Lights. You can
are they trying to come up with the excuse that it could be like what they call lightning ball or ball lightning BS?
They tried ball lightning. They've said swamp gas. There's all sorts of theories, but none of them have ever held water for any period of time. So nobody really knows what they are. They're actually in my book.
It's a place. It's a place to divert your path.
Yeah, there you go.
If you don't like the creepy stuff, don't go there.
Well, I mean, it's the people that live there. They kind of like have a relationship with them. I mean, they'll sit there and they're like, oh, they lit up.
Here's the time prophet. He's got to brag about something over here.
To my chest.
He says, yeah. I once meet someone at chess in North Carolina. They never.
That's a North Carolinian. That's probably low hanging fruit. I'm just saying. Anyway.
Oh man! I'll tell you what. Oh man!
Just
yeah, I've seen those. I've seen that. There's a couple. I've actually seen it on freaking Twitter. I guess some people were passing a video around a ball lightning crossing a road coming from a forest, going up a embankment, crossing the road, going over tracks, and then going down the embankment. And that's some creepy, weird stuff.
Well,
Weird.
brown mountain lights is probably the same thing, except it happens consistently and it happens in a very narrow location. And you know, you could live up. I mean, you could go up there for years and not see any of them, or you can go up there first time and see them. But there's really it's the most consistent, but it's not the most like punctual. Okay. But as visual phenomenon goes, it's very rare to find one that consistent, and that one's consistent, definitely consistent. So we've got paranormal groups all in North Carolina that have gone up there, and nobody's ever figured out a thing. So
did they ever have sightings of something other than that?
North Carolina's full of ghosts. We've got our share. But we've actually got like a whole entire Winston-Salem. There's a group of buildings that date all the way back to the pre-revolutionary, and those buildings, there's been all sorts of stuff going on over there. But you know, North Carolina's kind of got a reputation.
All kinds of weird spooks and specters, huh?
Oh yeah. I lived near an insane asylum. Okay, and and there goes.
Is it operational or is it?
The old buildings that where most of the operations are abandoned right now. They moved to a brand new facility, but the buildings are still sitting there. But my aunt and uncles, I've had aunts and uncles. My mom and dad worked there, and so they met there, but they worked there. Okay, anyway.
So now we know what's wrong with you.
My parents met
what your problem is.
So what you're saying is they've shipped the people out of there now.
Yeah.
And they've deposited them in the White House. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's a new facility. I'll just say that much. It's a new facility, but yeah.
I've seen some of those. I remember they used to have like the Ghost Adventures and the Ghost Hunters.
Yeah.
On the they'd have them on the like the TBS or
right.
Freaking like the
Ghost Bros,
something like
the
that.
Travel Channel, the Ghost Bros,
Travel Channel, yeah. And they'd also have the Ghost Hunters, those guys out of Maine or Massachusetts or someplace.
Yeah, I felt that, bro. Oh my god, bro.
And so they've been in a couple of those old facilities that have been long abandoned. Man, there's some crazy shit they find in there.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
What?
Really crazy. Literally.
I felt that, bro. Did you feel that, bro? I felt that, bro.
So do you guys believe in ghosts itself? I guess is the question. Because I don't believe in the term. I guess you would call it ghost per se. I have a completely different perspective on that, but
spirits. It's like I believe in ghosts, spirits. I've had my my experiences.
I've experienced nothing, so I've experienced nothing on that subject. So
you're boring, dude. What the hell?
You live in Scotland. There's supposed to be a lot of ghosts in Scotland.
Nothing happens here. Nothing.
They all happen at the castles.
Or I miss it. That's usually the case.
All right. There you go.
Yeah, he misses out on it.
So I want to hear. Let me hear some of these ghost experiences.
Sure. I've got a couple. I'll tell you the one that happened to me. Not the last one either. It wasn't the last one. I was working at Toys R Us at the Mission Bay location, right across from SeaWorld. This was back in 2000. Yeah, it was actually it occurred during 9/11. It actually happened the weekend of 9/11. Was doing a remodel we were doing a remodel and reset of the store. And I was on the truck unloading team. I wasn't. I was on a truck unloading team, but I also helped out with the other members doing the moving of gondolas and things like that. So there was about 20, I'd say it was about 20 people in the store overnight.
Mm-hmm.
We went in at about about 10 p.m. We stayed until about 7 a.m. before we would start when the store closed and end when the store opened. So we were there on a pretty interesting shift overnight. And the locations are freestanding locations. So there's no other buildings attached to it. It's just a freestanding building with a huge parking lot wrapped all the way around it.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in there, and this is the most significant event. So we were all taking a lunch break, and I think it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were sitting in the middle of the store. We were sitting there because we had moved everything out of the way,
Right.
and we were building shelves, the wood shelves for the carpeted area. So we were sitting on the carpet, which is in the middle of the store, and most of us were kind of facing the back of the store. In the back of the store, you had a vestibule upstairs where that was where your backstock was, and so it was kind of in see that store. Yeah, it was the whole. It would stretch the whole entire width of the store, and there was two entrances. There was one on the far right hand store where we had the baby's clothing and kids' clothing. There's a stairway that went up, and then there was another one in the dock area where you had we had an elevator lift, and then you had stairs that went up there. And so we were all sitting there, and in this in the loft area, they had ventilation windows, I guess you'd call them. They're louvered, these big louvered windows. They were probably 2 feet by 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably every 10 feet or 8 feet to 10 feet apart, you'd have one. And then I think every other one had an electric fan attached to it, so you could see this fan blade and everything. And then the next one would just be the louvered opening. So, and there's lights on up there. There's lights on in the store. So when you had the lights on in the store, those lights would come on as well. So it was completely lit up there, and you could see the light coming through these louvered openings. Also the one with the fan, and you could tell if the fan was running or not. So the fans weren't running at that time. So we're all sitting down there, and one of the managers asked me, "Is everybody down? Is everybody here? Is everybody here for lunch?" Because they didn't want anybody like moving around or hiding somewhere. They wanted everybody together at lunch. So we took a head count, and everybody was there. It was myself and two other managers. And we're sitting there, and one of the managers looks up and says, "Hey, there's somebody up in the loft, upstairs." And I'm like, "No, there's not. Everybody's here. We just did the count. You should the count." It's like, "No, someone's up there." So I'm like, "Okay, we'll go check it out." And before I went up there, we looked, and sure shit, you could see a shadow walking between the light and the louvered openings. And you could see they were walking. So they were walking from the dock side of the store, and they were walking along to the children's clothing side. So myself and another associate went up there. I went up the children's clothing side. They came up the dock side, and we ended up meeting in the middle. We didn't see anybody. So there's no physical way that that anyone could have gotten down from there. We walked the whole upstairs. Nothing. We didn't see anything. Nobody saw anything because by the time we got up there, two other people had come to each side to see if someone would sneak down.
Yeah.
No, we checked the elevator. The elevator was on the down floor. That's where it's always stopped. It never stops upstairs unless you're unloading or loading something, and then it goes down. That's where it's at. That was protocol. It's always on the downstairs. It never stays up. It's always down. And so, yeah, we couldn't find anybody. No one snuck down. And we searched up there. We looked through everything.
Which Toys R Us was this?
Mission Bay, San Diego.
Mission Bay. Well, there's a very famous ghost of Toys R Us in Sunnyvale.
Yeah. There was also one in I think it was either the National City store or the Chula Vista store, which was actually featured one time on one of the old shows back in the 80s. I think it was
Yeah,
either Ripley's Believe It or Not, or it was
yeah.
That's Incredible, or
That's
something
incredible.
like that.
It was That's
Yeah,
Incredible. That's
because
the one I think.
they had the security footage
Yeah,
of the playground balls just rolling around freely,
yeah,
toys ending up on the floor and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, they had a psychic come in to try to put him at rest. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah.
I watched that as a child. I watched that one. So
Yeah, we
back in the 80s.
but yeah, and there was another incident that I was privy to at that store, at the same store. I think it was just before that incident, maybe several months prior.
Well,
And
there's a
yeah,
phenomenon that happens around teenagers. There's a field that happens around, especially young girls. So a lot of psychic phenomenon happens around young girls around a certain time of their life. There's like some kind of like a field that comes up around them. A lot of poltergeist activity. Yeah. Well, anybody that's known girls around like preteen and young teenagers know that they go entirely insane for a little while. So
Sometimes they stay that way.
sometimes they stay. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
That seemed to have some experience behind it, Cruel. No idea.
I know that when I used to work for Michael's, at our old location, we moved to a new location back in 2020, just before the pandemic, shenanigans happened. So we moved into a new location, but the old location was adjacent to a supermarket,
right?
And that location, the old location we were in, used to be part of a Safeway store.
Oh, wow.
And so that store wasn't converted into the two separate stores until like the mid 90s. And so then that's when Michael's came in and leased the building, or part of the building, and converted it into a Michael's. Well, apparently, story is that back in the 80s or something like that, somebody was murdered or died. I don't know. It was either a murder or they committed suicide in the Safeway location. It was probably an employee. I'm kind of sketchy
is
on
this
the
in California? It was suicide. If it's California,
no, this was Arizona. It's here in
okay.
Yuma.
All right, could be.
So
murder.
There was always the rumor, from some of the people who'd worked there for quite some time, that there was some things going on there in the store.
Yeah.
So I worked there for 7.5, almost 8 years, and there was something going on. Not all the time,
right?
But there was some stuff. I had specifically a few things happen directly to me, or incidences that I actually felt and heard. Never saw anything, just felt and heard. One of my associates, because I was a manager, one of my associates in the frame shop was working one night, and we have air compressors, and air compressor and has the couplers in the ceiling, so they would hang down, and so you would be able to blow stuff off, and it would set to the side. So we'd set the air gun off to the side, and this one associate was working on a project. That was probably about 7 o'clock at night, and he said he was sitting there. He was fixing to mount this picture in this frame. He looks over, and the air gun itself, along with the hose, was lifted up off of the freaking counter, off of the workstation, and it was how he put it. He laid it there, so it's laying flat. It's not like this hanging. It's not like it was hanging. It wasn't hanging. It was like sitting like this, and it rose like this. And he said when he saw it lift up I think he said it was about 18 inches off the counter, it dropped. Yeah. And he freaking left. He took off. Went to the manager, wherever, found the manager, told them about it. They both came back and looking around. They didn't see it. They didn't make a big deal about it, but I was told later what happened. And that kind of jives with some things that had happened at the store. So,
Right.
This is the most interesting part because you can't debunk what happened. What happened was, and I was privy to this. There's a phone, you know how retailers are, they have phones in several different departments and all the offices. Like if you have a cash office, they have a phone. You have a break room, there's a phone. If you have a manager's office, there's a phone. Okay. There's a phone in the back room, in the dock and stuff like that. So there was a phone in the manager's office. The manager's office was adjacent to the cash office. Both doors had keyed locks. You could not go in without a key.
Right.
Very few people had keys. All the management staff had keys. I had a key because I was a manager. And then the one person who worked in the cash office, and they were always there in the morning. So this would always happen at night. So the manager's office, so you have to go through the cash office door, close that, walk to the end of the cash office, and then the manager's door is right there. So you have to unlock it to go in the manager's office. It's just a box cubicle with a desk and a phone and some filing cabinets. There's no other way out. There's no way. So you got to go through two locked doors with keys. So myself was working one night, and then the closing manager, and then we had two other people. We had a cashier and somebody else. And so I was cleaning up my area, and the manager was up at the front pulling register tills. So each register has a telephone. Right. And you know how systems work. So that they have like a retail system, they'll have it has a screen on the phone that shows where the call's coming from, especially if it's an extension. It'll say extension 40 or 38 or 29 or whatever it might be, right? So you kind of know, okay, this is coming from the break room, or this is coming from the manager's office, this is coming from the cash office, framing, whatever. So she's pulling the tills, and the phone starts going off. I'm on the other side of the store, and I can hear the phone. I can hear it, it does its ring. So, and of course, the ring for an extension to extension call, because it's internal, is a different type of ring. It's more like a couple of beeps, stop, couple of beeps, stop. Or if it's a phone ringing from outside, it'd be like a regular telephone, ringing noise. Yeah. So specific. Extension to extension is pretty specific. So I heard this extension to extension and didn't think anything of it. And then she starts calling me on the radio. We have radios. She goes, "Hey, John, are you in the manager's office? Are you in the cash office?" I said, "No, I'm over in the framing counter, which is the other side of the store, doing my stuff, cleaning everything up." She goes, "Are you sure you're not messing with me?" I said, "No." I said, "I'll call." And I called her right from the frame counter, which has a specific extension. It was 27. So I called her at whatever register she was at so she could see the extension, and we're talking to each other on the phone. I said, "No, I haven't been in the back. I've been doing this." She's like, I asked her why. She says, "Someone just called me from the manager's office." I'm like, "Well, who the hell else is here?" She goes, "Just me, the two cashier, and the sales floor person." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "Can you go check in the office?" Sure. So I leave, go all the way down the other side of the building, through the receiving department. You got to go across the receiving department, other side, kind of like a loop around. Right. Go to the door. I looked inside because I have a safety glass. Looked inside the cash office, nothing. So I opened the door, walked in, and then open the manager's office door, which doesn't have safety glass. It's just a solid door. Open it up, turn the light on. Nobody in there. Phone is there. Hasn't been touched. Nothing. So I lock it up, leave, lock close the door behind me in the cash office. It automatically locks. Now remember, all these doors automatically lock. So if you walk out and leave your key in there, you're screwed. So you always make sure you had your keys with you. So I walk out, I go to the front, and I talk to the manager, and I'm like, "Yeah, I was just in there. Lights were off in the manager's office. Open the doors. Everything's, kosher like it normally is. It's okay." So I go back to do my thing again, and she's like, automatically, I hear it. I hear the extension to extension ring. automatically she calls me on the radio. She didn't even answer. It's still ringing. She's calling me. And she says, "Hey, phone 40 is calling me again. Are you in the manager's office?" I said, "No." And I stood there and I just yelled, "I'm in the frame shop." She could hear me. And I'm like, she's like on the radio. She starts laughing. She says, "Yeah, but this is creepy because I'm getting another call at another register. Wasn't even the same register." And the only way you know that is if you were in the office and you could see the CCTV to know where she was. So whatever was happening knew where she was and would call that extension from the extension in the manager's office. So that was pretty freaking creepy.
I'm watching you.
I'm watching you. But the thing is, the CCTV is not in the manager's office. It's in the cash office. So you can't open the manager's door without a freaking key. Nobody else had a key that was on staff that night. There was only two of us that had keys. And so, one night, here's another thing. Same location. One night we were closing up. It was during Christmas or somewhere close to that. It was like either before, we were just gearing up. So we had a lot of business. And so I had a big staff that night. A big staff is more than 3 people to help you close and clean up and recover the store and get the hell out, right? So we were taking off, and one of my people that I had in the frame shop was working because I was closing MOD. So she was actually closed at the frame shop, and she was helping recover the store. And there was an area that had decor and stuff. And we had these little fake bird cage things that, I don't know, some of them were pretty tall, probably, I don't know, about 24 to 36 inches in height, metal cage thing, kind of a decorative type deal. It wasn't really a bird cage, but it was designed that way put plants in it and decorate it and stuff like that. And they came in all kinds of shapes and sizes and whatever. So there was one whole thing of them, one whole aisle. An aisle was probably about 24 feet in length, and it was on one side. And they were all sitting on a base deck of this gondola. So they had gone through there and put everything back. Nothing was on the floor. And then my person went and swept the whole floor. They were sweeping it with a big, huge push broom. So they swept the floor, came through. Nothing was in this aisle. As we were locking up, everything was done. Everybody put everything away that they could. We were getting out of there. The safe was locked. The store was shut down. Everything, the lights even went out. Their automatic lights, they went out. So we're all walking to the front because that's where you had to clock out, because the time clock was there, and so was the security panel. So I had to put in the security code, and it gave you so many seconds to get the hell out of the building before it set the alarm.
Right, yeah.
So we all clocked out, but on our way up there, we were all together, and we walked down the aisle. It was adjacent to this one row of gondolas with these cages on it. They were all sitting in the middle of the aisle, all the way down the whole length of that aisle. And I stopped and I looked and I gave, like, the girl who was supposed to be cleaning up, closing the frame shop, who swept the floor. She says, "Okay, who's doing this? Because I just came through here with the broom and there was nothing there." And I'm like, "Well, there's 16 of these freaking cages sitting on the sales floor off the thing. They were just sitting there." So we had to stop. Everybody put them all back. Yeah, everybody put them all back on the thing. And we're all like, and now she was not a believer in stuff like that. And it creeped her out because she had just come through there and she was trying to accuse one of the other associates who had a joking side, but they were with me in the cash office when she was sweeping the floor.
Right.
So, and the other one was cleaning the bathrooms. So they were cleaning the bathrooms and dumping the trash and couldn't be up there over in that section because the bathrooms were back near the office. Right. And you could hear them working. And so, so she was the only one on the sales floor and they weren't there. So she started getting freaked out and started believing in it. But yeah, that was a creepy one where actually stuff was moved off the shelf.
Right.
But yeah.
Yep.
Gremlins. There you go. Gremlins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gremlins. Fun times.
Well, there's like one story that Tom McDonald tells. He's a rapper. He's an independent rapper.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool guy. But he was doing a shoot for a video, but he was doing it in this place in Canada called Tranquil. Hold on a second. Let me find the exact spot. It's Kamloops Tranquil Sanatorium, and it's located in Saskatchewan, I think. But it's like a remote place in Saskatchewan, and it was open near 80 years. By the time he went up there, it was a TB like a sanatorium, and he went up there and for a shoot, and he says they got up there and he says the place just felt wrong, for the first time they got up there it felt wrong, and but it was like this is the place they were going to do their shoot because they needed a kind of like that kind of back place, and that was the only place that they could find, but so they go in there and said they were walking by this one house, and said these two kids came out and told them, "Don't go in there. The floor collapsed. You don't go in there." And they said they both look kind of like disheveled, a little wide eyed, and it's like okay. And they said they kind of like lost track of them, and they said they disappeared, and so they didn't think nothing of it because people that place was kind of open to visit. That's why they used it, and so they were like walking around. The town's deserted. There's all these houses and stuff, and they checked. They kind of looked into several houses and things like that, and all the houses had like this ingress to someplace subterranean. And well, they decided that they're going to do their shoot in the hospital itself, and turns out it's basically underground, and all the houses had like an ingress to it, so there's like tunnels that led off to all these houses, where when somebody died during the night, they would put them in, they take them out, through the because they didn't want people upset, and it said that so they went through there, they did their shoot, and it said that it was, besides being creepy as crap, and having all these all these cells and stuff down there. They said it was scary, but it was like, okay, let's get the hell out of here. And because the whole time they were there, it's like every hair on the back of their neck was like up, and so they get out all the way out to the car. And the guy who shot the video says, "Oh, I forgot, or I can't find one of my Klieg lights. You guys have got to go get it. It's several $1,000s. That comes out of your budget if I lose it." And so they said, they're like, "Oh, we're not going back in there." They said they argued for a while, and they decided to draw lots. And his friend lost, his buddy that was with him. And his buddy's like, "Okay, well, I'll go back in there." He's like, "I can't." I can't let you do this by yourself. And so they go back in there, and this the empty place, and it's going around about dusk, and so they're like, we're definitely going to get this and get the hell out, because he remembered where it was. And so they went down back in the subterranean hospital, and it said they found the light, and they were on their way out. And he says, and both of them just stopped at the same time because they felt something. Both of them felt at the same time. And they turned and looked, and inside one of these cells said a dark figure like stood up. And they both saw it. They saw a shadowy figure just stand up, right? And he says, and they both of them they booked it, right? They just booked it out into the night. Getting the hell out of Dodge, and said they ran for a while, and then and both of them like stopped and huffing and puffing, and looked around, and they were they were pretty much lost, and there's no lights in this place. There's no electricity in that town, and so
Okay.
yeah, so they had to find their way back, and they found what they knew to be a boundary fence, and they followed it out, and said that they got back to the car, and took off, but he said later on, he was like, okay, I need to find out what's going on with this place, what was this place, and so he looked it up, and among the things that he found, among the articles that he found, was the fact that there was these two kids that had gone there and fallen through the floor in a house, and it fallen to their death. And he's like, don't know if it was the house, but I'm pretty sure it was. So it's called Tranquil. But look it up. He tells that story way better than I do. It's Tom McDonald, haunted, abandoned, sanatorium story. He tells it way better than I do. But yeah, that story, that I don't, stories like that don't usually get me, but because I live near a sanatorium, so I mean, stuff like that happens. Anyway, like Waverly Hills is Kentucky, that's Ghost Central, But these places, there's millions and millions of people that die and go through these places. They've gone through these places, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the kill total for Waverly Hills was, but Waverly Hills had a ton of people die there. But it's like as Christians, we're taught that there is a spiritual world. There's angels and demons.
Hi, Tanya.
How much
Hello,
is this
Tanya.
angels and demons? It's entirely up to you to figure out. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's it.
Oh, okay. She's on her way home in the train. So well, yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with us for a while. But I he's talking earlier that you see a psychic, you see a like a con artist, but go ahead.
Again, that's kind of new agey and kind of
Right.
frowned upon.
Right.
Kind of
Well,
black magic frowned upon type stuff, isn't it? So
yeah. I do have premonitions though. Myself, multiple. My father had them, and so I have them too. But so I mean, there's things that there's things that I've figured out ahead of, that have come to me ahead of time. I mean, that I won't get into all of it, but like before the we had the shutdowns for COVID. Nobody really saw that coming, right? I mean,
no,
nobody
not
thought
initially, no.
Yeah, I mean, nobody thought we were going to shut down the whole dang planet for that, right?
Yeah.
But I kept telling people, I was like, we're going to be missing a lot of work. I think there's going to be a big snow come through. I thought it was a big snow. And, but I kept telling people up to that point, and I was like, I think we're going to be missing a lot of work shortly. And, and then I find out about that. And Drunk Greg's like, oh, you missed it. But yeah, I mean, I had a car from the moment I got the car, I said, I'm not going to have this car long. I love the car. I mean, I really love the car. But every time I saw it, I was like, I'm not going to have this car long. I don't know why, but I'm not going to have this car long. And I, the one morning I went to work and I drove this road, and I came over a hill and there was a car in my lane. And I remember having this conscious thought. I was like, oh, this is why I'm not going to have this car long.
Boom. No.
But because I kind of like had it, I kind of was in an attitude. I was able to make an adjustment with the steering that saved us both, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, it smashed the car up real good. But yeah, I mean, that's I've done things like that pretty much my entire life. My dad did it. My dad called his own death. Went around
Wow.
prepared for his own death. So
Wow.
I mean, whether he has a premonition or not, I don't know. By the way, this is the car.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
If I hadn't turned the wheel in time, then I wouldn't be here today. There it is.
Right.
Wow,
That's
yeah,
a fair chunk
yeah.
out of it, yeah.
Yep. Man.
And it
Near
sold me
miss.
on Subarus for life because I could open the door. The passenger, I mean, I was able to open my driver's side door after.
And get out. Yeah.
But yeah, it sold me on Subarus for the rest of my life. You know, I was like, damn, you know. But yeah, I turned. I was able to turn to last second and was able to make it a glancing blow. But he was solidly in my lane. I mean, he was solidly in my lane. But I was able to make it a glancing blow. But the reason why I was able to do that was because I knew it was going to come. I knew it was coming. As a matter of fact, I was so calm after it was over with. I was like gathering my stuff. They thought I was in shock. They were going to take me to the hospital because they thought I was in shock. And I was like, no.
Given the circumstances, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, no, this is the third time this has happened to me in my life. And they're like, what?
Oh yeah, it's okay.
He's like, he says, I've rarely met anybody this has ever happened to, you know,
right.
You know, period. But this has happened to you 3 times. I was like, yeah, 3 times. This happened to me 3 times, you know. But yeah, I mean, it's whatever it is. I don't call it psychic ability or whatever. I'm just, I think the Bible calls it a word of knowledge. Some people just have a word of knowledge, you know, where they'll know things before they happen, or they can perceive things, or
you're a Jedi.
Nah. Well, that's part of the telepathic bunny thing, you know.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I've told the story before. But my dad, he went around and things that he did. He got extra life insurance policies. One of them he took out for my brother specifically, my oldest brother specifically. And he went around and told everybody this was going to happen. He set up my aunt and uncle to take us. Even went on a vacation with he and my wife, my mother went on a vacation to and let them stay with us over a weekend over summer to get used to being parents. And so this happened all before the accident happened that took their lives. So, I mean, yeah, if there's something out there, I mean, I think there is. I think certain people do have the gift. Now, whether talking to dead people or something like that, I have my doubts. But you know, around the crucifixion, there was actually a resurrection of the dead that happened. Where people got out of their graves around the time that the temple Holy of Holies veil was ripped. People did get up out of their graves and were seen by some people in Jerusalem. So, you know, I mean, it's called Night of some. I was going to make a sermon on it one day before when I was back when I was going to be a minister. I was going to call it Night of the Living Dead.
Someone beat you to the punch.
I didn't get the chance to, but a
lot of original.
Things happened, so. There you go.
The original Night of the Living Dead. That's cool.
But I mean, we, you know, Jesus knew what was going to happen to him, and you know, I mean, I think certain people do have an extra knowledge, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it is what it is. I don't make predictions, or I don't know anything that specific. But you know, I do get premonitions, I guess. So I do know premonitions exist. But
I was waiting to say, you know, didn't Isaiah have a premonition of Jesus sitting at God's side, wasn't it?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
he caught all the prophecies in the Old Testament came true.
Hmm.
In the person of Jesus Christ, and there's like
Hmm.
several. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but it's astronomical.
Yeah.
It could have been anybody else. But all the prophecies that happened, where he was born, how he was going to be born, who he's going to be born to,
Yeah.
and where the location that he was going to grow up, and I mean, all of it was just like, cemented before he ever hit before he ever breathed the air as a child, So it is what it is. Of course, Time Prophet's going to doubt that, but it is
We've
what
got a
it is.
heathen in the chat, a heathen.
Well, speaking of the chat, I want to thank Tanya for coming in. Thank you for coming to the chat.
Hello.
Also, Blue Harvard LDG's in the chat or was in the chat. Cool. Thank you all for coming in. New people I've not seen in the chat before. Appreciate
welcome in.
Appreciate you guys coming in and listening to us
like
today.
And subscribe.
Please
if
also,
you like this
yes,
content.
I was just going to say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, please. Really appreciate
Click that notification button as well.
Absolutely,
Right.
all notifications. Ring that bell. So let's talk about the sky thing.
Go ahead.
Right.
Willie, what did you want to talk about with the sky? You want to talk about the Phoenix Lights, or what do you think? I know the Phoenix Lights are pretty interesting because it was broadcast basically around the world. The event, even the governor of the state at that time was involved with a press conference and a practical joke thing with some guy in a suit, alien thing. But it actually occurred, and there's multiple videos of this of going on, and people were coming up with trying to debunk it and things like that. And at first glance, the layman might say, okay, yeah, that sounds plausible, that it's flares or something like that. But there's a lot more to it than flares on a military exercise. So.
All right, Willie, you're up, man.
I don't know. I don't know. We've been talking about ghosts for the last hour, and I just have completely trying to figure out what's going on. So let's go. So the Phoenix Lights is one of the largest.
It's supernatural.
Okay,
it's going to come up,
Willie?
Yeah, but you guys, I listen to ghost stories, and I sit here and I'm like, there are so many gaps in the stories that everybody says that you don't want to destroy a person's perspective because there's a whole lot more involved in the whole ghost thing. But I mean, I guess my question is to you guys, and honestly, do you really believe that this happened, or is there doubt? Is there okay? I listened to what happened with Wookiee. Right. He said that this guy was on the second floor and everybody swore they saw a guy. Am I correct? Or somebody, right?
Well, they saw a shadow walk past the opening because they walked between the light and the opening. So yeah, it cast a shadow.
Okay.
And that shadow was moving across several different ones.
And everybody was in the store, and these was doing hours of operation, correct?
This was actually the store was closed.
Okay.
But we were doing a remodel.
Okay.
And so there was several people in the store. Like there was probably close to 20 people in the store at that time, and all 20 were accounted for.
Okay.
On the sales floor when we were having lunch, and that's when this was noticed. Now, not everybody noticed it at first at all because some of them had their back to the wall. They were facing the front of the store. This occurred in the back of the store, up in the mezzanine area, the vestibule up top.
Okay.
The second floor.
Okay.
So it was about a handful of people. So it was more than just me and one other person. There was about probably 6 people saw this.
Okay.
Directly.
So this is inside a store, right?
It's inside. Yep.
Who called the police?
Nobody called the police.
Why not?
There was no reason to call the police.
If you so
here's the thing. Yeah,
let me finish real quick.
Go ahead.
if everybody in a store, and this is protocol, you're doing okay. Let me go back. Was there a loss prevention person or some type of security personnel there?
No.
Okay, so it's just staff, right? A couple of managers, a couple of floor people. They're doing a remodel. Okay,
exactly.
So if these people are saying, as a manager, you're saying that you see a shadow on the second floor and your whole staff is accountable, what is the protocol you're supposed to do? Even in it, because I've been a store manager and I've done this before. What is the protocol when you have all your staff accounted for and you think there's somebody else in the store? You're supposed to contact the police department. You're supposed to bring somebody in. Everybody's supposed to kind of hunker down. If anybody really believed that it was a threat or there was somebody actually there, wouldn't somebody call the cops? Or was it that everybody's just tired? Or was it that maybe somebody's looking at, there's so many things here. There's no specifics because like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, everybody's tired. Everybody's probably been working. Nobody knows anybody's condition. You know, working in these stores is insane, you know? So I'm thinking, is there any way this could be false?
No. Was it
It happened the way I explained it. I mean, sure, there's some nuances here and there, but, you know, I will say this, that the manager that initially saw it, then I was the second one to see it, and then four other people looked up and saw it as it was moving across. So yeah, we thought there was somebody in the store. We thought it was another employee.
So the snake in the tree effect. The snake in the tree effect. So hey, look, there's a snake in the tree. And then you say, no, there's not. And then a second person's like, no, there is a snake in the tree. And two people are like, yes, there's the snake. And then the third person doesn't want to feel like they're out. So they're going to say, yeah, shit, look, there's the snake in the tree. And then the fourth person goes, yeah, look, there's. So the way that sounds, like one person saying, look at that. And then the other person like, oh, yeah, look at there. And then the other person doesn't want to feel out of place. I know, look, everybody's experience is different. Everybody's belief is different. But if we look at the things a little bit logically and take away certain aspects of our personal beliefs, a lot of things can be explained. I can tell you 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I lived in a haunted house for like 3 years, and it was during the Civil War times, and people stomping and holes being dug up and things like that, right? But I look at it from a different perspective, and it's like, okay, I can explain this, I can explain this, I can explain this. Is there something out there? Yeah, I think so. I don't see it as like I mean, you call it a spirit, but they also call alcohol a spirit. So I mean, you know, it's I don't know.
I was a way to say, is it possible it was a light or shadow cast from somewhere else?
Because you're talking about angles and lighting, and it's I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say. I'm going off a.
I can say that I watched it.
Or second person.
Now I physically saw something cast a shadow across the opening. Again, this is an opening that's about 2 feet by 2 feet with louvers. Okay, you can see the light. And here's the funny thing. One of those from an angle that I was at, the second one that didn't have the fan, there was a light that you could physically see behind up in the ceiling where the angle was. So by the angle of where I was sitting, and I'm looking up at this, you know, and I'm probably about, I don't know, 35 feet, 40 feet away. So I got a pretty good angle right through this to the ceiling so I could see the light. Some dark figure blocked that light out as it passed from left to right. So.
And you were stationary. You weren't moving.
Yeah, I was
you weren't doing nothing.
Eating. I was sitting on the floor eating, facing the back. And like I said, it was myself and a handful of other people were sitting there roughly in that direction. Then it stopped. So we saw movement. I saw movement myself. Several other people saw the movement. Then it got to a point and then stopped. There was no more shadow cast or anything. It just stopped. That's when we decided to go. We went around, looked around, because we thought it was an employee. We thought it was someone screwing around. And they actually had a specific person's name. They were asking us, did blah, blah, blah come here tonight? And they're like, no, I don't think so. I didn't see him when you left. You know, I didn't see him when we came in. So we were looking, thinking someone was screwing around.
Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
That's
nothing
what
Nothing
But
outside the building could have done that.
no, we were locked in.
But I thought you said that everybody
through the
was accounted
windows.
for.
Yeah, we were. They thought that. Okay, yeah, everybody was accounted for.
Okay, so
Once we came
nobody
down,
would
everybody was
question that.
everybody
Okay.
was accounted for.
So
One of
was
the
everybody accounted
managers
for before or
Who
after
did
everybody saw
thought there was
this?
someone else missing. It was after everybody saw this.
So
Everybody was
after
accounted
everybody
for.
saw this, okay. So if everybody was accounted for, how many hours were you into your shift?
Well, we were 10 o'clock, and I think it was probably around 1 or 2 when we had
Okay.
lunch.
So you're
Maybe
about
3. About halfway
couple
through the
hours.
shift, basically.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're
about
halfway through
it.
the shift. You're halfway through the shift. You don't expect anybody to be in and out. I mean, there's a lot of holes here because now they think that there's somebody upstairs, but they have everybody accounted for. Is it? I mean, to me, I would fire everybody
That's
first
why
of all
we
because
thought-
nobody knows accountability in this store. Everybody would be fired. Okay, somebody came up to me and told me something like, "Hey, we thought there was somebody up on a second place, and we did an accountability. We couldn't find anybody." I would fire every single manager right there. All of you would be fired because if you're not contacting or doing, anyways. I digress. There's just the thing. You show me, and I believe you. I will never doubt you, but I'll always question you. That's the way I feel about it. Instead of just getting a big tangent, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, I understand
Nobody
that people
was able to come down from upstairs.
nobody
Nobody
not
was
even
able
that.
to come down.
The whole
There was-
ghost thing, the whole, I know. Okay, here's my question to you: if you told somebody to go into a haunted place, right, and they know nothing about ghost, religion, anything, and you tell them spend the night in there, right? You don't tell them nothing. Would they describe the experience the same way all of you do?
I don't
know.
I wouldn't know
No
what
idea.
their experience was if I wasn't there with them.
So,
Well, my Grunt Craig, my housemate here.
wait,
he
what
grew
was
up
his
in-
name? File? I mean, not File. I'm reading my name.
His nickname is
Bunny. What was his name, Bunny?
the nickname we gave him is Drunk Craig.
Okay, that's awesome. By the
Drunk
way,
Craig. There you go. That'll
He
work.
doesn't drink. He doesn't drink anymore like he did because
they just call him.
he just went through a cancer scare. But
Holy shit!
But we always call him Drunk Craig, But
Yeah.
Anyway, he grew up in a haunted house for about a year or 10 years when he was a teenager, and the a lot of the phenomena that he witnessed was pretty significant, and his sister corroborated it without him. I met his sister after I met him. He told me these stories. After we met, we had a night where the power went off. And we were just like hanging around, and he's like, "Hey, you want to tell ghost stories?" So we told ghost stories, whatever. But he told me about this stuff, and then later on, I met his sister. I didn't know her from Adam, but I met his sister, and he asked his sister. He's like, tell us some stories. Tell him some stories about the house that we grew up in, and she told me the same stories. Told him, but from a different perspective. So that was pretty significant to me that she didn't know that I knew these stories already, that he told me these stories already. And she told some of the same stories. But one that really creeped me out was she and the second oldest son they decided they're going to play a trick on Craig, right? Craig was the youngest. He was the years younger than they were, and so they're going to torture him a little bit. And so they told him basically that it's like, hey, let's go play hide and go seek, and so they're they rarely played with him. They're older not, they're old teenagers, and he's in his he's about 8 years old. And so they rarely played with him, and he had nobody out there to play with. So of course he was susceptible to any kind of trick they played on him, and they played tricks on him all the time. But they're like, hey, let's go hide and seek. And so They went out to go play hide and go seek, and he was supposed to be looking for them, right? And so after he started counting down, they ran outside and ran around, and she felt a hand on her shoulder, and she turned around, and it was the middle brother, right? And she was like, "Hey," I was like, "I got an idea. As soon as he comes out, let's go back in and watch TV, and he'll be out here for hours. It's hilarious. It'll be funny." And she said he's like nodded his head, and so she turns back around, and suddenly out of the corner of her eye, she sees a movement, and she looks over there, and that same brother was crossing into the field across the road, further down, and she still had the hand on her shoulder. and if you see the woman tell this story,
That's
I mean,
creepy.
yeah, but the way when she told me that story, I mean, there's like a glint in her eye, and she said she just screamed and like ran, and it freaked her out. She was like, it took her hours to calm down.
Right,
but
right.
but the thing about it is, she said he had this really odd look in his eye, and years later, that same brother came down with schizophrenia, and
wow.
and he would get the same look in his face, in his eyes,
Wow.
as he saw then. So, I mean, that's just
Wow.
A little precursor to that, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. He also had, there's a rooster that they got these dibbies at a fair, right? And so his sister accidentally killed his dibby. She fed it something that it couldn't swallow, and it died. And so she kind of like gave him her dibby, which grew into a rooster. Okay, and now that rooster terrorized him. I mean, literally terrorized him. It chased him around, and it when it did so, it always had this intelligence to it. I mean, it would literally. Now, if you know anything about chickens, they're dumb. Okay, chickens are always dumb as bucks of rocks, but this one would actually hunt him, and chase him up trees and stuff like that. And I mentioned to him later, I was like, "Are you sure the thing, whatever was in that house, wasn't inhabiting that rooster?" And he's like, "Holy shit, you might be right, because that thing like made his life misery. I mean, the thing would literally hunt him, chase him up trees and stuff like that." And but I mean, it was a really strange place.
Right.
And after they moved out, the place burnt down one night.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Hey,
It was
so
supposed to be completely uninhabited, but it burnt down one night. So
hey, why do all ghosts understand English?
I
Good
don't
question.
know that they do.
They do. If you look at all the shows and if you look at everybody that does these shows, they go overseas and they go to places like, Civil War era, where language is so different too, and nobody ever takes accountability of that, account of that. But they all understand English. So how do they understand English? I mean,
Good
all
question.
of them.
Good question.
I
I
don't
saw
know.
a show. I saw one of the Ghost Hunter shows or something like that, where they actually went to Scotland
I got Bigfoot
and they
questions.
were roaming around some places there, and they had a local gentleman with them, and yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't, it's like it in like say if you had ghosts in like old Europe, like Spain, Portugal, France, Italy, Germany,
Mm-hmm.
even those languages are not the same as they were a couple
Right.
300 years ago.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
But yeah,
I mean,
a significant drift when it comes to language, especially, lasts a little while.
well, it's funny because File's right when you. So who's to say that someone died someplace? It's a haunted house or whatever. Who's to say that they were English speakers? Maybe they were immigrants from someplace, or wherever they're from. Their
Mhm.
their
Yeah,
language is their native language. So
They have a supernatural translator. That's what it is. It's like
yeah,
Star Trek,
exactly
but
right.
it's
Yeah, it's one
supernatural.
of those supernatural
always
translators.
loved that
Unless they're demonic. Unless they're demonic.
They speak all manner of languages, don't
Yeah.
they? Yeah,
Demons demons wouldn't have a problem with the language barrier.
Yeah.
So
quite so. Yeah.
yeah.
Time prophet
That's
going after Cruel.
why I'm here.
The only
you go.
ghost in Scotland is Cruel Beer.
I'm haunting the stream. I'm haunting the stream.
Melvin Deeply,
The-
welcome to the chat and the stream, sir. Good to see you.
Well, he's the only man I've ever seen to make Tweed look cool. So there you go.
There you go.
I mean, something to be said for that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hey, are we doing
Forgot what I was
pizza?
going to say now.
Yeah, I'll get one.
Pizza.
Pizza?
Pizza.
Not going to share with the class?
Fuck no,
man.
you motherfuckers get your own pizza. I get a cheat. Hey, I get a cheat once a week. So my go-to is pizza. I love pizza. It's either, if I'm gonna cheat, it's either pizza or Chinese food, because I can always get tacos. My wife's Mexican, so you know when it's cheat day, it's either pizza
Always get
or
tacos.
Chinese food. You know, no, tacos is for like Christmas and stuff. You know,
I've not met Rob Sinez, but no.
I thought that was tamales.
I love pizza. I've always had pizza is like one of the first real like American foods that I really enjoyed, and I was like, okay, so pizza's always, so ever since I was little, it's like
You grew up in Jersey, so yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's always God damn, that's good pizza up there. Anyways,
Well, my grandmother took me to get my first pizza. It was a Godfather's pizza, and I remember it was pepperoni, and it was like the most exotic thing.
Lovely.
It was like a early, I think it was late 70s, something like that. Well, that's before all the international food started going into the rural areas. You know, I mean, up to a certain point, the only Chinese food we ever got was like this Chung King, came in a can or whatever.
I remember that
chicken
stuff.
chow mein. It's funny. It's funny,
that.
but years and years later, you know, now that we have actual legitimate Chinese food, Americanized Chinese food, but
well, it's the same way with the fast food, you know, the quote unquote Mexican food. I mean, come on,
right.
Taco Bell, Del Taco.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm pretty much a Taco Bell addict, you know, but you know, I went the first legitimate Mexican restaurant I went to, I got fajitas, and I was like, oh, well, this is what it's supposed to taste like.
That's what it is.
Fajitas, yeah. I'm a fajita nut, you know. But I mean, Chinese don't eat like that kind of food. I mean, they don't have like chicken and stuff like that.
Time prophet. So. I won't eat Chinese food. I mean, Chinese are great when they're younger, but then they go really
right.
You're gonna burn in hell, time prophet.
Well, from his comments about Jesus, probably. I was just saying.
Happy someone in the chat says, I have bacon, and for lunch, bacon, for a snack, bacon, and I used to drink dinner. I usually drink dinner.
Why not?
Are you sure he's not Scottish?
For a while, but...
He's part alcoholic.
Alcohol fueled.
Yep.
Yeah, you sure he's not Scottish, you know?
I have no idea.
Yeah. That critical drinker guy, man, he drinks like a fish, dude.
He does.
I know he does. Yeah.
You know what? He can break down pop culture like nobody I've ever seen. I mean,
no, he's good.
You know,
he's good. Yeah,
he is incredible. Incredible. For an alcoholic, he does all right.
Yeah. He's definitely quite regulated when he's sauced. So
well, there's a you don't bring up supernatural. There are a few anomalies in the Bible that do like give you one pause. Like when Saul was trying, he had his premonitions of his death, and he was trying to, get it straight in his mind. And the only person that ever talked to him and told him the truth was the prophet Samuel, who died years and years earlier. And so, because the priests were all like terrified of him because he killed everybody that disagreed with him. So he had to go on out to somebody outside, and so he went and sought out a witch, and he found one in a place called Endor, and he went to
the planet Endor. What?
no,
I know.
there's an actual place in the Bible called Endor. She's the witch
I
of
laughed when I
Endor.
saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, Endor. Yeah, it was in the Bible. That's where they got it from, probably. But he went and consulted her and asked her to bring up Samuel, and asked Samuel's advice. And she brings up Samuel, and she must have really ticked off Samuel to bring him up because he was not in a shall we say kind mood. And he basically told him, he's like, well, tomorrow you and your whole entire male line is gonna die. Mahalo. I'm done with you.
Yep.
But that whether that was Samuel or not, or a demonic spirit, it scared the shit out of her because she figured out that was Samuel, or that was Saul. So either way. But yeah, so that's a ghost story that's right in the Bible there. So
Yep.
It's also a medium or whatever. So
Right.
what make of that what you will. There's
that kind of stuff is usually frowned upon within the Bible and that.
Yeah, exactly. He killed all the
all that
witches. That's why she was terrified when she figured out it was Saul, because he did.
Yeah, that would probably do it.
Yeah. Just most days. Okay. All right. You figure out to liquefy it. The blender.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, now a lot of those biblical places, they've had sightings of weird aerial anomalies. Like there was a video going around for a while of something that happened over the Temple Mount, and it, someone was just out on the balcony and they saw something flying around, so they pulled out their phone and started videoing it. And this thing came down from the video that I saw, that I can remember of it. It came down flashing lights. It came straight down over, like, not too far over where, that area, and stationary, sat there spinning around. And then all of a sudden, it just literally just boom, right in the air, like shot off like a rocket straight, and was gone.
Right.
Straight up in the air and was gone. And that was crazy.
That is pretty crazy. In the end times, Moses and Elijah are supposed to come back, according to Revelations. They come back bodily and start preaching. So that's why a lot of people think that there's a verse where Moses's body was contested over. That Satan and Michael, the archangel Michael, actually contested over the body of Moses, because the body of Moses could never be had to be like never discovered for the end time prophecy to happen. So I mean, this is stuff that's right there in the Bible. Anybody can look it up. But I know that there's people that don't believe in the Bible, but if you do believe in the Bible, this is significant. So there it is.
Sorry, I'm reading Acts right now.
But yeah, so a lot of these
that's
places,
okay, Cruel. I love you anyway.
It's like, it's like, there's a lot of these places where they've seen aerial phenomenon, whether you want to call them UFOs or UAPs or whatever, but they've seen, multiples of these things, or like you're talking about the lights in Kentucky, things kind of like that aerial phenomenon where it's just can't be explained. Like, it's, could it be that there's some sort of, link maybe to these aerial phenomenons and historical places that have a lot of energy? You know, you're talking about energies and stuff like this. They drawn to that because I know that there's several different places around the world that have very, you know, it's very common to see UFOs or things like that, UAPs in a specific area or over a specific ruin, let's say. You know,
well, there is like some scientific evidence that the place where, you know, specifically like Travis Walton was kidnapped. That particular place has a it seems to have a lot of UFO sightings, and that evidently there's a lot of lightning that strikes around there. An extraordinarily amount of lightning that hits the ground in that area, and so some people believe that that's where they were recharging their engines when he showed up, you know, and so I mean that's a possibility. I mean there's a I mean anybody that wants to say that this is wrong, this is right, you know, and just immediately shut their mind to any possibility. I mean I'm a Christian, but I try to keep an open mind.
There's a lot of unexplainable things. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of strange stuff.
Anybody that nails stuff down and wants to like disparage other people, other points of view, other you know. Now, as a Christian, I believe that you know that the Bible is a real, true document, and I think there's provenance that goes all the way back. You know, it's the Bible with the Bible is the document that has the most corroborating evidence to back it up of any document that we have. The next nearest one is the Iliad and the Odyssey, and which is the distance between is over 1,000 years, you know. But the Bible has documentation that goes all the way back to right after it was written. You know?
I mean, so, what we don't have anymore likely is the original scrolls that it would have been written on. You know, they're probably
we do have some of them. We do have some of them.
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, I mean,
some of the original
Scrolls is pretty significant. I mean, it goes back pretty far.
You can only imagine what the Catholic Church might have stashed away in their basement. All kinds of different documents and things like that.
I mean, the Smithsonian's got shit that will blow your mind. Things the Smithsonian has acquired, and we'll take care of that, you know. And then it disappears down a rabbit hole.
It gets lost.
So I mean, at Cannabis and Conspiracies, the show that I do, we keep running into the Smithsonian this, the Smithsonian that, you know. And when you look at what specifically disappears, what gets memory hold, it always has to do with the actual age of the Earth. That's the stuff that gets memory hold. Like a pterodactyl shows up in you know, there's pictures all over of a pterodactyl, you know, showing up in Tombstone, and they actually have a picture of it, and it's
I've seen that thing. That's kind of wow. That was like the mid to late 1800s.
Right, exactly. And then but then it just then disappears. It's gets scrubbed off the net, and people can't
well, people are still seeing weird stuff like that, weird creatures, weird animals like that, like, you know, birds that are way bigger than you would expect.
The Thunderbird myth.
The Thunderbird,
it goes from sea to sign and sea, and all the Native American tribes seem to have a version of it. It's one of and Sasquatch. There's Sasquatch from all across the planet. Viewing, you know, legendary from all across the planet, and there just seems to be a lot of this stuff, and then suddenly all this information, like giants. We know a documentation of a guy that was over 8 foot tall, they call it Wadlow was his name, but then all these giant bones. You see all these people like taking pictures with these giant bones. And then, what happened to them? The Smithsonian came and got them, you know?
Yeah, and then they have no record of them.
Yeah, and so it seems like stuff that corroborates the biblical accounts or the age of the earth all seem to like that seems to be the things that get memory hold, you know? So what the actual history is, we may never actually know until the end times, you know? what the
Yeah.
actual history is that they've
Yeah.
concealed and buried and
Mhm.
and stored
Absolutely.
up. Like the Ark of the Covenant
Well,
is supposed to reappear at some point.
I remember. Yeah, I watched your stream on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so I mean, it's basically, there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's the world that we know, there's the concrete world that we know, but there's this there's like this underlying current of another world that seems to be floating underneath us, and that every once in a while we catch glimpses of it. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
parallel dimension or whatever, but
Yeah.
but I
You
don't
know. You
nail
know one
anything
thing.
down,
This this is one thing that always kind of gets me thinking, and that is obviously God created the universe, and as we know, or we assume it's true, is that the universe is a rather large place,
uh
and it's like, well, hang on a minute, is there life out there on other planets then?
right.
Because it would seem pretty sad if
Yeah.
all powerful being such as God would create one world with one race on it. That doesn't seem to
Right.
make sense to me, but there you go. Is
Well,
there another race out there that's been taught similar things to us, but we just don't know?
Right. Well, I mean, Time Prophets has been taking shots all stream long and everything, and it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine by me. I mean, it is what it is. I personally believe the Bible is the inherent word of God myself, and if other people want to believe differently, I mean, I'm perfectly. It doesn't bother me any way, shape, or form. I mean, my belief system's pretty secure. But the thing about it is when you look at things like the Bible code, and things like that, and just how everything in the Bible seems to be completely there's a specificity to it. There's like a structure to it, and when you look at the breadth and the length and breadth of the Bible and just what is it contained in it, and the things that have been confirmed and the things that archaeologically have been confirmed and things like that. I mean, the thing about it is I really, everything I learned about the Bible makes me more convinced that it is what it is.
Yeah.
And very often, the more you learn about something, the less you believe in it. But the Bible has been opposite for me.
The only thing that concerns me about the Bible is there's been a bazillion different translations, and you just don't know, how true to the original or close to the original text it is.
Well, the thing about it is, the translations, the drift on translations is about is pretty insignificant. I mean, when you look at the documents that were older than the King James version, the King James version, the last version of the King James version came out in 1776, I think, 1769, or something like that. But that's the King James version we have, right? But they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they looked, and there was only like a 5% drift in the actual documentation. And Dead Sea Scrolls were hundreds of years earlier than the text used for the King James version. So it's been copied so exacting over the years, and kind of like maintained almost supernaturally. So you want to talk about supernatural, the maintenance of the Bible over the years is just pretty incredible. But the thing about it is, though, is when you talk about the different translations, the different translations all carry the same truth. Now, granted, some of the later translations I do not recommend. Like the NIV went completely gender neutral at some point in the mid '90s. I don't.
I've got NIRV, I think. So I've read that.
Yeah, you might have the gender neutral one. I don't know, but it's what there's enough in the New World Translation by the Jehovah's Witness, which is completely corrupted. There's enough in there to convict a man. I mean,
you want a laugh?
Huh?
I'll take a supernatural kind of thing that I completely forgot about this. A pal of mine who
Mhm.
gave me my Bible, actually.
Oh, okay.
He was here, and I can't remember if it was the same day, or
Right.
round about the same time as he gave me my Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door. I kid you not.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Right. Well, Mr. Time Prophet, the contradictions are basically eyewitness accounts, and that actually proves the validity of the Bible, because if you take multiple eyewitness accounts, the any cop will tell you this. If you take an eyewitness account from multiple different sources, and some of the Gospels eyewitness accounts were years and years after the events, and so.
Right.
You'll find a difference in the eyewitness accounts.
It's not word for word the same. It covers
it
it
isn't.
covers the same subject, but it's not word for word.
Which actually, it actually proves. Okay. Well, anyway, blah blah blah. Gotcha.
Blah blah
No big
blah
deal.
blah blah blah. Sorry, it's just like
It is what it is. It is what it is, man.
It is what it is. I would say, and you guys hit on something a little bit ago with you talking about. I think it was T Bunny. You said something about that there's Bigfoot sightings all around the world, and there's giants' bones being found, and there's stories of giants and stuff.
Right.
So there is one interesting book that I've had for a long, long time. Now, I have some personal biases when it comes to a certain person who authored this or co-authored it. But in this book, they actually go over the different, I guess what you would say, races of Sasquatch type creatures. Like in China, they have the Yeren, which is more akin to what a orangutan looks like, but it's big. And so also in Southeast Asia, like there was reports of a for all intents and purposes, a primate looking creature in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. GIs had encounters with these, the Viet Cong did, and so did the North Vietnamese. So they were documented being out there. There's stuff in South America, Mexico, and farther down south,
Himalayas,
South America, right? But there's different ones. So their descriptions are even different in how they look and their body construction, like the length of their arms ratios, basically their arms and leg ratios, their height, their head.
Well, I'd like to meet any of them except for the skunk ape. I think I'll pass on that one.
And even here in North America, there are, because there's so many encounters that don't really get reported. And I mean, I'm talking reported as to ones that where they pick up the phone and they call the BFRO and say, I saw this big hairy thing, yada, 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 etc. But there's a lot of reports that don't get reported to them.
Right.
Some of them are actually in police reports. Some little old lady will call the cops because they had a peeping Tom in her mobile home.
Yeah.
In the living room window or the dining room window or the kitchen window or freaking bathroom window.
Well, you'll run into this a lot. As when we were talking, we're going through the cannabis conspiracies. We run into a lot of times where the local reporter will pick up on a story and write a story, and then it hits the national level and it dies. It gets completely totally evaporated.
Absolutely.
And then you'll see something from that same reporter that got moved up the chain to national news, and it's like there's a lid on everything where when they get uploaded to the AP or Reuters, it's like there's a lid on it where there's like a filter. And it could go back to something that File 13 brought up when we're talking about the ghosts is, there could be holes in their eyewitnesses' accounts where it brings up more questions and then it actually answers even in just the eyewitness, even though
they feel they've seen something, they've experienced
Mhm.
something, they could smell it, they could see it, etc. But if the way they're telling it to the reporter or somebody,
Mhm.
that somebody might feel that, okay, they'll write it out and everything. But if there's something that's just kind of a miss, or there's like a gap in there of something, or something logically doesn't make any sense, or
Right.
it's just not there, then that's probably why these stories get buried. Now, did that story actually happen?
Mhm.
Probably so. Whoever
Right.
experienced it, they experienced it physically and visually and
Yeah.
all the other senses that we have, hearing and smell. So, but because there might be a little bit of a hole, or the witness might be in a community or of a community that is kind of joked about. You know what I'm saying, T
Yep.
Bunny? Like,
Mhm.
case in point, redneck. Okay, some old redneck over there, Billy Joe, saw
Yeah.
somebody do, and they don't want to. They're like, oh, just laugh it off, whatever. You're, either high or you're freaking drunk or whatever.
Mhm.
But but 9 times out of 10, those stories actually, they happen. They happened to somebody who was out doing something,
Yeah. Right.
and they saw something and they heard something and they got a bad feeling. Something
Well,
followed them home or something
let me
like
just
that.
address
So,
this right quick. Time Prophet, I
yeah,
am not offended at all, man. If my faith could be tempered or damaged in any way, shape, or form by somebody else having an opinion, I'd be no better than SJW. Okay.
I know.
And so, you believe
Oh,
what you want to believe, my friend. I hope you're right, because if I'm right, then you might be in deep shit. I'm just saying. Anyway,
you know, you know, on the
yeah, I'm not
subject of,
offended either, and I'm a Christian as
I'm
well.
not
good
So
offended
luck.
yeah,
either,
I
but
mean, good luck with you, man. Go with
on the
God.
it
subject
Go
of
with
doesn't.
God, my
on the
friend.
subject of social justice warriors and that,
Yeah.
you're a Christian.
There's
I'm
a
a Christian,
cryptid right
and
there.
it's a case of we have to love thy enemies and love thy
Right.
neighbors. It's so bloody hard though.
It
They're
is.
idiots.
It is.
Ah!
It is. It is.
Well, I
But
mean, there were times where you could see Jesus's patience was being, this
Oh
is the
yeah.
Son of God, and you could see that he was kind of like reaching the end of his limit sometimes.
Did he not
So,
imply, "Must I do everything for you" or something? Wasn't
yeah,
it's
he's
some,
like,
he said something to
how,
that effect. I
it's like,
remember
you
that.
you generation of vipers, how much longer must I be among you? I mean, he
Yeah,
says
that's the
that.
one. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the one.
thinking if Jesus can get frustrated, then anybody can get frustrated. So, I mean,
Yeah,
he had the patience of the Son of God. So it is what it is.
that's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is now the Jesus stream. Hallelujah.
There you go. There you go.
so
Well, that's perfectly fine, Time Prophet.
Yeah,
That doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form. But good for you, my friend. It is a hell of a
so
story. I'll give you that.
well,
It's
it
a
is
hell of a
told
story.
it
yeah,
is told
there's a
as
lot of
like
good
a story.
stories
Yeah,
in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yep.
The
And
Bible
you
has
know,
some of the best stories I've ever written. It has some of the best superheroes ever written. I
to
mean, it's
be
mhm.
got some of
perfectly.
the. I mean,
I always like to try. I always like to, just for laughs, kind of
yeah,
like condense what it all
yeah.
means, and it means don't be a dick. There you go.
There you
yes, it does.
Be good.
Don't
Don't be
be
a dick.
don't be dick. Be good.
go.
Behave
But
yourself.
going back to
Yes.
the different races, so to speak, of these Sasquatch type creatures, or
hmm
what they call primates. Now, I
Mm.
was part of a group many,
hmm
many, many, many years ago. I was a researcher. I was
Yeah.
part of a Bigfoot group, and they did actual field work in
hmm
a couple of specific states. And their philosophy is they weren't a big group. It's not the BFRO, and
hmm
they're not an affiliate of. They're not an affiliated group of the BFRO. So they're their own independent regional group. Um, their theory was that what the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, or what do you want to call it, in their area was a what they classified as a unknown primate. Well, when I was with them, I was mostly just doing internet research and things like that. I had access to all the reports. So these reports that I would read and check out were not necessarily okay. Yeah, it has hair, it's covered head to toe, etc. Okay, that's the common description. Ooh, it's a big gorilla. Well, that's the only thing you could use to describe it.
Yeah.
It's not going to say it's a big hairy human. It's a big hairy gorilla or a big hairy monkey or something that looks like a monkey or a orangutan or something like that, right? Or a chimpanzee. Right. They're going to use what the descriptive is to describe what it looked like. Does it have features in the eyewitness accounts that can correlate to being classified a quote unquote unknown primate? Sure. Longer arms than normal humans. The length of the arm is past the hip and in almost touching the knees. In some accounts, they're longer than those past your knees. Okay, but there's also the identifying with the walking carpet. Yeah, the walking carpet.
Let me get this walking carpet out of the way.
This walking carpet. But you also have the thing with the footprints and handprints that have been found, that casts, all of the famous plaster casts from all over the United States, and in fact all over the world. Okay, there's not just a 5-toed one. They've got casts of 4-toed and 3-toed. Okay, but the structure of the foot is similar to a human type foot, not a primate type foot.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like it's like that, what they call the missing link type, if you want to call it that. I don't really like to use that, but that's something that laymen can relate to.
In between.
The missing link. Well, not necessarily.
That's Darwinism.
It could be another.
Right there,
yeah, exactly. It could be another. That's the thing. Like they're hiding. Okay, giants. If you want to believe giants existed or not, okay, but that's a fact that the Smithsonian Institute buries information. It's documented. People sent something to the Smithsonian Institute. Then they go back to check on it.
They've
we never
signed
got it.
Papers.
Actual paperwork saying that we're sending it, we're taking it, all this shit. Yeah, we never got it. We don't know what happened to it. We don't have any information. We don't know.
That person doesn't even work here. We don't know who that
exactly.
is.
So
we have top men on this.
Yeah, top men. Top. And then the reports you have the reports of people, and then there's some pretty extreme reports in the Bigfoot community that don't get reported by the BFRO because someone makes the mistake of telling them, and then they just bury it, the report that they took from the witness. And those are the ones involving government interactions, where you have government, whatever branch, military, non-military, don't know, don't care, but it's highly organized, highly efficient, and too many commonalities with an organized group that works very fast to extract a body and leave, and that's it. You don't hear of anything else about it.
Right.
So there's too many people making things like that. So I mean, but again, those are reports that only get told on the fantastic fantasy shows, blah blah blah. So, but who's to say that part of those might not be correct? I don't know.
Well, the thing that we're discovering, the last 2.5 years have really pushed this along pretty far. But the thing we've discovered is that conspiracy theories are coming true at a very alarming rate. If they're calling it a conspiracy theory today, and then suddenly 2.5 years down the line, after this person's been silenced, pushed off the net, or disproven, or called all sorts of names, and then suddenly
tinfoil hat.
Yeah, exactly. And all this thing came from the lab, or this is all this don't take the vaccine, it'll kill you, and then you see all these people dying of like a mysterious or like a natural causes or something like that with a clot in their heart about this big around,
Yeah,
and
I've seen pictures of some of that weird stuff.
yeah, but the thing about it is though is essentially, there is like something going on. T Bunny's brother, I don't know. You have to ask him. Anyway, but the thing about it is though is you got to keep an open mind these days. You can't take anything face value. You can't,
No.
take anything that I say. All right. About the Bible, anything I say about the Bible, don't take my word for it. Read it yourself. Read commentaries about it. Look at it yourself.
I was away to say, I mean, you do know the difference between a conspiracy theory and a conspiracy fact, right?
About 2 or 3 months. What?
Yeah.
It's now about 2 or 3 months. It used to be 2 or 3 years. Used to be 2 or 3 years. Now it's
just
a couple
that's
months.
shortened, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
it's shortened quite a bit.
So many things, so many strange things. I mean, I draw the line at lizard people and interdimensions. I mean, I suppose interdimensions kind of probably do exist, and when you think about it, there is the spirit world and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
But in terms of parallel universes, the multiverse, all that stuff, I'm like, nah, not so much.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of weird things and a lot of strange things have seemed to have come true, and some of it does tie back biblically as well. But
well,
so,
I mean, for instance, the thing that really blew my mind is when I looked into the Titanic.
Oh wow, yeah.
When you look at the Titanic and you find out that less than 7 years before the Titanic went down, before the Titanic was even laid, okay. There's a book that came out called Futility, the sinking of the Titan. Okay, now in that book had almost exactly the same dimensions as the Titanic, but the ship was deemed unthinkable and went out into the North Atlantic and hit an iceberg and went down. Okay,
yeah,
and right on the heels of that book being written and becoming pretty popular. Suddenly JP Morgan is buying cruise lines. Okay. And one of the cruise lines he bought was White Star. And then suddenly, right after that, 3 ships got commissioned with the same dimensions as the Titan. And one of them happened to be the Titanic. Okay. And then meanwhile, he creates an artificial banking crisis that terrifies everybody, and he suggests a Federal Reserve to protect the currency. Okay, now the 3 people, some of the richest men in the world who control most of the wealth. Okay, because this is the robber baron era where the wealth was very concentrated in a small amount. So I mean, about 5 people had the GDP of most nations in their coffers.
I think I know where you're going. But okay,
exactly. 3 of those guys got on the Titanic. One of them at the insistence, Astor the Fourth, I think it was John Jacob Astor the Fourth, and he got on with the insistence of Molly Brown, who was hanging out with them at that time, and they went out and so they got on the Titanic to head back to America. Okay, now Molly Brown was one of the first one on the boats and survived. But John Jacob Astor the Fourth and Eli Strauss and the third one, which escapes me, were told that they couldn't get on the boats, even though John Jacob Astor had a pregnant wife, which was one of the things that they were supposed to allow people on the boats for. Okay, now the guy who told them to go full speed into the Atlantic was the chairman of White Star. He was on the Titanic. He's the guy that told him to go full steam into the North Atlantic. And oh, by the way, the California, which was a ship, was within was within flare distance. They could see the flares go up, but they did not move towards the Titanic to save anybody. Okay, and so basically, guys, that's a lot of moving parts there. But you had
Yeah.
but you had the exact, plan laid out to you
Yeah.
in this book, and then the same
Oh,
thing
that's
happened.
just hearsay and poppycock.
And oh, by
Come
the way,
on
these three
now.
men could have submarined the Federal Reserve, and with
Yep.
them going down,
I
suddenly,
saw that. I saw that on the fall
Yeah.
of the Cabal on BitChute. Yeah, that was mentioned on
they
there.
could have submarined
They could have
the
stopped-
Federal
they could have
Reserve,
stopped
which
it,
is,
yeah.
oh, by the way, about to sink our whole
Yep.
entire financial system
Yep.
into the pit right now.
But nothing to see here, please.
Nothing to
Carry
see.
on. Nothing,
To see here.
Nothing to
Right.
see. So the problem is that I have with that whole story is that where the hell is Bigfoot?
There you go.
On the Titanic, apparently.
Apparently he's on the Titanic. He must have been in third class.
We're just
He was in
saying
third
that
class.
we're just saying that paranormal is just something we haven't discovered yet. Okay,
Yeah.
whether it exists or not, we know it
You know,
exists because there's
it-
just too many damn people that have seen this stuff.
The funny
but maybe
thing
it's
is,
it's a science that we don't know yet. You know,
here's the funny thing is there's reports of eyewitness accounts, not of an actual encounter,
Mm.
but they have seen things like, case in point, there was a someone that was witness to a helicopter.
Mm.
They lived on a mesa or a bluff near a wooded area, so they were overlooking everything, and so they could see for quite some distance over the tops of these pine trees or trees, whatever. If they're pine trees, I'm not sure, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, it's been a while since I've read the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, a gentleman, and I think his wife was with him, and they were outside in their backyard doing everything. It was nighttime, so they were enjoying the night air. I don't know what they were doing. They could have been drinking, smoking pot. I have no idea. They could have been making out. I don't know. Anyway, the gentleman says that he heard a helicopter.
Mhm.
Actually, no, I take it back. He had heard, prior to the helicopter, he heard some gunfire earlier in like the early evening, like at dusk. So
Mhm.
he heard some gunfire coming from somewhere near his home, but he heard some gunfire. And then later on, a few hours later, I'm assuming, he heard a helicopter and saw a helicopter, a large cargo size. So you're looking at a Chinook, double
Mhm.
propeller. You got a Chinook coming in, and he saw this thing, and he said it hovered over these trees. I'm not sure how far away it was, probably a half mile. I can't remember specifically the distance, but he could see it, bigger than day, nothing blocking his view from the back of his house on this mesa. And his house bordered this mesa, the cliff. So he could see what was going on. And he said this helicopter stopped. It was a Chinook. Now, of course, it was dark, and he could see the lights. And I'm not sure if he was ex-military or what. That's how he knew what type of helicopter it was. But it was at night, fairly lit, not extremely bright. But they dropped a line, apparently. What he was basically getting at is that this helicopter came in, stopped, hovered over a spot in the forest. They dropped a cargo line or a line of some kind, not sure.
Yeah.
And then they ended up pulling something up. Okay, they had something wrapped up in a cargo net or something, and lifted up and flew in a direction that came over one corner of his property. He couldn't tell what was underneath there because it was dark, and the helicopter went off in whatever direction it was going, and that was it. And they didn't think anything of it. Okay, and then I heard a report of something that happened, and apparently this wooded area is some sort of a camping area or park type.
Do me a favor,
attached to
highlight
the
that last comment right quick.
He just won't let up with that helicopter. Really.
I know he's
naughty
just
boy,
all over
you.
the helicopter thing. So what I was
Yeah.
trying to get at is there was a report, and there was a report or a story that was told on one of the YouTube channels by one of the
Mhm.
Bigfoot channels.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to leave it as a story. It does involve some campers or something was going on. Some campers got attacked or killed or something,
Mhm.
and apparently it was reported to the park people. The park people contacted somebody in government. Some people showed up in SUVs unmarked, got out with, um, equipped, put it that way. So they were equipped, went into the area. They had cleared everybody out, first of all. Then they brought in these guys. They went out. Lots of gunfire was heard. Lots of gunfire, screaming, some animal screaming, whatever. Gunfire ends, and everybody, of course, everybody has already been moved from the area. They got everybody out. And then afterwards, not specifically sure on the time frame, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 15 after the shooting stopped, helicopter rolls in, picks up whatever this animal is, and hauls ass out of there. And then apparently there's dead people there. Something happened to these people. They were killed by something,
Mhm.
and the bodies were taken away, or whatever coroner, they were taken off. All the witnesses that saw the dead bodies were, of course, they were taken away from the scene before these gentlemen showed up. So they were sequestered and got out, out of the way, so they didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So don't know. It's kind of interesting that someone out of the blue would say, "Hey, I saw something funny that happened because there was some gunfire. I heard and saw a helicopter show up. The helicopter hauled something off. End of my story." Does that
Okay.
corroborate with what the people in the park saw because they saw some dead bodies, something killed them, whatever? Then some guys, some mystery people show up in big trucks, unmarked SUV, civilian type vehicles. They show up, gunfire is heard, screaming is heard, then it's over with. So I
Well,
don't know. You be
let
the
me
you be
point
be the judge. So
yeah, let me point something out. The book is called The Wreck of the Titan or Futility. It's called Futility first, but later on renamed to Wreck of the Titans by Morgan Robinson. Okay. It just does 14 years before the Titanic was built. Okay, Melvin. Okay, Melvin says if you're gonna write a book, any ship side. Okay, all right. You're saying this is a coincidence. Let me just read this out. Okay. The Titan and the Titanic both were triple screw British passenger liners with a capacity of 3,000 and a top speed of 24 knots. Both ships were deemed unsinkable, which was part of their, part of the line. The unsinkable ships. Both sank in April in the North Atlantic after colliding with an iceberg on the forward starboard side. Okay. And now, the Titanic struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, 1912. Sank a little over 2 hours later at 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, 1912. The novel was republished after the Titanic sank, right? But now it says obviously there's striking similarities between the names, of course, but they both collided with an iceberg in North Atlantic due to excessive speed. Both ships had far too lifeboats. Both were launched in April. Both disasters happened in the same month. Both were largest ship afloat. The Titan was described as one of man's greatest works. The Titanic was deemed unsinkable, wonder of its era. Both had displacement of 45,000 tons. Both had 3 propellers and 2 masts. Titan sailed from New York to Liverpool. Titanic Southampton to New York. It was Titan's third voyage, Titanic's first. Titan was 800 feet long, weighed 45,000 tons. Titanic, 880 feet long, weighed 46,328 tons. But Titan had 15 watertight compartments, Titanic 9. Titan had 40,000 horsepower, Titanic 45,000 horsepower. Titan speed 25 knots, Titanic's 24. Titan and Titanic. Coincidence or synchronicity? Okay. Now one was written 14 years before the other one. And about 7 years after it was written, the Titanic was laid by the White Star Lines, which was owned by J.P. Morgan. So there. And J.P. Morgan didn't start acquiring these cruise liners till after that book was published. Okay. And it had the dimensions, had the time, had, the North Atlantic. They were going way too fast for the time. And guess who told the captain to go too fast? The guy who was the chairman of the board of White Star Lines, who was on the Titanic. Okay. I mean, it's just, you want to believe in coincidences? Be my guest. But I just think that there's a good possibility that somebody used that book and said, "Wow, that's our blueprint right there." Because everything, if you followed everything that happened in that book and down to the size of the ship, and somebody was mentioning earlier about the watertight compartments that should have kept the Titanic afloat, they failed. And another person that was on the Titanic was the guy who designed them. Okay.
Crazy.
And there was also a fire that went on in the Titanic. It had been going on since before it left port. And it was down in the bows. And one of the things that they did to try to get rid of the fire was shove it into the boiler. But they took on a whole entire new crew right before they left New York. So, I mean, it's just, you will believe in coincidences, or you want to believe in like precognition or whatever. There you go. So
a rather timely coincidence, perhaps.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that this guy who happened to own the cruise line was trying to get the Federal Reserve passed, and the only way he could do that is if all the richest men in the world basically suddenly disappeared, and their fortunes were in flux, and he was like, "Oh well, I know you're brand new to having all this wealth. Let me tell you what we can do with it, because I know Strauss said that that the Federal Reserve was a good idea. Okay, that gets brought up a lot. But Eli Strauss was also a man of his people, and what he was told the Federal Reserve is not what we wound up with. Okay,
Yeah.
And so, the other guys were non-committal, but the other guys certainly had an opinion. Okay, and John Jacob Astor IV would not have gone along with it. He wouldn't have. Nobody. He was too smart.
Yeah,
But
that's why they needed to die.
and there you go.
That'd be someone. It was a Yeti that captained the Titanic and ran it into the iceberg in protest over trans Yeti rights.
Could be.
By the way, I'm not the conspiracy guy. Conspiracy? I think not.
I don't. That's in the pickup truck there, Time Prophet, not the wall.
All right.
The gun rack.
Anyway, I think we got off the rails a little bit. I'm sorry if I derailed your show. I apologize. But I've already driven File 13. File 13's already bored with us, so there you go.
He's probably working on one of his projects.
Yeah. Busy man.
Yeah. So I mean, here's going back to the Bigfoot sightings and encounters and etc. all this stuff. That there have been reports of people seeing UFOs at the same time in the same place. They've been reported. Now, do the BFRO? I know wants nothing to do with UFOs. So if someone gives them a report that says, "Yeah, I saw these funny lights," and then minutes later we heard this thing crashing through the forest and blah blah blah, and all this shit, and then they see this UFO, okay, lights and whatever. They never report on that. They take part of the story, they'll put that part that relates specifically to whatever the creature is, but they go ahead and they just dismiss and not even record the rest of it. Or they don't even take the whole story at all. They just say, whatever. Same way with portals. Someone claims that they're driving down the road and all of a sudden there's this big bright light And the next thing they know, some big old huge hairy creature jumps out in the middle of the road in front of their car, and it came out of nowhere. It came out of a portal. They saw this portal open up, and this thing jumps out of it or jumps through it. Or something jumps into it and disappears. So there's reports of that. Now, I don't know. Are they on meth, cocaine? Who knows? Mushrooms? Have no idea. But there are people out there that report stuff in conjunction with a Bigfoot sighting that is not recorded in what they call official Bigfoot sighting reports.
Right.
So I know that there is a YouTuber who's not a YouTuber first. He's a Bigfoot researcher, and he has taken video footage and still photographs of what he claims to be portals. I've watched his videos very intently, and I'd have to say, well, there's something freaking there. Something's going on that's in the film or on his on his camera. Something's going on, and it don't look right. So whatever it is,
let me address this over here with Melvin, Mr. Melvin.
Melvin.
He says he's talking about the author. The author was actually an engineer. He actually worked on shipbuilding, and so yes, you're right. He did know specifications as watertight compartments based on engineering practices. Yes, he did. No, yeah, but I'm just saying the possibility exists that that you have this book, and after this book was written and had this very specific dimensions of a ship, and had a very specific like configuration of the ship, and had this very specific place where the ship was going to go and wreck into an iceberg and sink. Okay, very specifically. All right, and so you got somebody buy a shipping line right after this book was published, buy a shipping line and create these ships, three of them, because it was a sister ship, right? So there's three of the ships, right? And then you have all these gentlemen who wound up on that ship, who were like given free tickets or given encouragement to be on this ship, and boom, they were on this ship, and all three of those gentlemen wound up sinking with the ship. But this is the kicker: two of them, they searched. That a lot of them weren't recovered. A lot of the bodies weren't recovered, but two of them's bodies were recovered. They specifically recovered two of the bodies of those two, Strauss and John Jacob Astor. They specifically looked for those two men, and they found them. Why did they need confirmation that these two men were dead?
Well, exactly.
Good question.
Considering how many other people were on the ship,
Considering how many people weren't recovered, how many people's bodies were never recovered, they did recovered those two. Specifically recovered those two. And so, there's the third one that they wanted. I think they wanted the third one too, but they couldn't recover him. But they recovered two of them. And we know specifically they recovered those two. So, I mean, it's just, you can believe it's all coincidence. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I believed it for decades for that, there's nothing to it. But
I only found that out over the last few years, actually, when I watched The Fall of the Cabal. I didn't know that the people that could have stopped the Federal Reserve were conveniently on the Titanic, but conveniently sank.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I wonder who played them in the movie.
Well, actually, I know John Jacob Astor was in the movie, and so was Eli Strauss.
All right.
Those specifically. The one where Strauss, they said he and his wife were like laying on the bed together because his wife refused to leave him. That was supposed to be Strauss. So you remember from the movie, but.
No, I don't. It's been a long time since I've seen any of the Titanic films. Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just saying that conspiracies.
I watched the Poseidon. I watched the Poseidon Adventure last year.
Go.
The year before. That's about as close as
Well, I didn't watch the movie specifically. Time Prophet, you and me are on the same boat on that one. For once, we're in
You're on
in
the
agreement.
same boat.
So, yeah, on the same boat.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Watch a 3-hour movie about a 2-hour sinking.
yeah,
I remember that when the
There
movie
you go.
came out. I
There you
remember
go.
that when that movie actually came out. That was the
Mhm.
running joke.
right, right.
So
All right, guys, I gotta head out.
All right, well,
that's
all right,
Tuesday.
man.
All right,
all right.
good stream.
Well,
Make sure to like and
See you
subscribe.
later, man.
Have a good one, guys.
all right,
All
man.
right.
Have a good one.
25
See you
All right,
later.
Bunny.
Bye.
I'll see you later on. Corel.
Okay.
Te amo. See
Have a
you.
good
You guys have a good one.
All
See
right. Yeah, I have to go too.
Okay.
I got to betray Jesus in about 5 hours here.
Oh no.
Yeah. Anyway, no,
Oh,
I'm
no.
sorry, 3 hours. 3 hours. So I got to get
All right.
prepared. You know.
There you go. There you go, man.
Thanks for coming, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. Thank you,
That's good to see
Melvin
you.
Deeply, Time
Yeah.
Prophet, and all the guys over there. You know, I may
Yep.
disagree with you guys, but I appreciate you coming and adding your opinions to the show. Yeah.
Yep.
I believe in intellectual curiosity. I believe in people who are dyed in the wool skeptics. We need them in the world. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
there you go. We need the wide-eyed
right.
dreamers, and we need the guys that cut them off at the kneecaps every chance they get.
Yeah.
It's all part of the same ecosystem. All part of the same ecosystem. Yeah,
Yep.
we're all sinners here, man. So am I. I'm the chief.
All right.
I'm the chief. All right, later, man.
See you,
See you
T Bunny. Have a good one, man. Thanks for coming by.
See you guys. Bye.
Okay. And
I've
then there were
not seen
two.
Beyond the. I don't think I've seen
There were-
Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. That's Michael.
I
Caine,
haven't
isn't it?
either. I've seen the original Poseidon Adventure. It was a good movie.
I've got that. Yeah.
If you're into that, it was an Irwin Allen movie. So Irwin Allen made some good disaster films. You know, Tower Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, stuff like that. He did a lot of great 1960s television shows. Lost in Space, Land of the Giants, Time Tunnel. There's another one in there. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Those were all
Oh yeah, we
Irwin Allen
spoke a
TV
lot.
shows.
We
Great.
spoke a
great
lot
shows.
about Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
Yeah. So getting back to the subject matter at hand, since we've talked about conspiracies and stuff, there's a lot of conspiracies out there revolving around Bigfoot and stuff like that and those creatures. But going back to what I'd said earlier about that there being kind of like different types of descriptions or quote unquote races of these things, it's kind of like us. There's like different races on the world of humans. There's different, so to speak, you want to call them race or species of birds, of
Dogs.
fish, of dogs, of canines. So there's all kinds of different ones. Why wouldn't there be different ones if they did exist of some sort of hairy man-like creature?
Well, I was about
and
to
it's
say-
been documented. And the one book, like I said, the one book that I have, it actually goes through and documents all those differences from Bigfoot of the Northwest to the Yeti in the Himalayas and everything in between around the world. And there's different descriptions and things like that. And it's all, again, this is all based off of eyewitness descriptions and things. They've also have reports of what they call feral people, where they're not necessarily some creature, but they are humans, but they're feral. So like, I should,
like
they,
X-Files, like that X-Files episode.
yeah, exactly. They had I remember that episode.
Mm.
So it's kind of like that situation. There've been reports of stuff like that. There's also been reports of, I think somewhere in Eastern Europe, there was a report decades ago. I remember reading it in one of these books I have, is that there was someone, one of the armies or something like that during whatever conflict was called out or was in an area where there was a sighting of what appeared to be like a caveman,
Right.
like almost like a Neanderthal looking in description and everything else. And they ended up not killing it or him or them or whatever. They actually captured it and took it away. But the descriptions were like a Neanderthal style or description, thick eyebrow ridge and things like that. The smaller, less tall head, cranium cavity, big jaw, things like that. Very, very strong, like a power lifter, strong, but not of great height. They were, 5 foot tall, 6 foot tall, somewhere in there. So they were kind of average height to what a human would be. So there's reports of that. So there's all kinds of different things.
Yeah, I mean, I was away to say that when it comes to describing things, people all often, I think, have a tendency to compare it to something they recognize as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a man, but he's all hairy. Oh, it's like a man, but he's got 6 fingers and 3 thumbs and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and people have, like I was saying earlier about description. Some people back, in the early, like late 1800s, early 1900s, would describe it as some big ape, the ape man, okay, or something like that. They because they're equating it to something that they've seen before in a book or went to a zoo and they saw a gorilla or a monkey or a chimpanzee, something like that. They're trying to relate it to that. And so, but it's something different. It's not that. But then they say, well, they see it in the face and they have human features. Okay, but it's not a human. So there's something, it's in between there. It's not a human. It's not an ape. What is it? Well, it is something different. It's completely different. Now, I mean, there has been stuff, and I think Melvin Deeply had mentioned too, that, museums and things like that will intentionally like lose stuff. The Smithsonian's no different. I mean, there's lots of people who've talked about in published articles in the news or in a book over the last 100 years of where Smithsonian Institute would be in receipt of something and then lose it, or they would get something from another museum or another curator, bring it into their establishment, and then it gets lost. No one can find it. They have no record of it. Yet they have a record of them being interested in it, have a record of it being shipped to them, but they don't know anything about it. Oh, we're done. We don't know anything about it. Sorry, that's been mistaken. So there's a lot of that. So
seems to be a common theme. That one.
And not just, well, yeah, it has to do with a good case in point is whether or not the continent of North America was actually, if there was actually already a land claim on it before, the United States became the United States. And there's been some debate over that, and the unwritten story or untalked about story of Lewis and Clark was just that they were out to go and to check, look at these this information, try to find out if they could actually find, proof to rumors of these stories. And supposedly there was a land, a land claim by somebody in Europe earlier than when the United States was formed. I think it was President Jefferson, I believe, who's the one that commissioned Lewis and Clark to go on their expedition across the United States. But according to stories, that's one of the missions that they had. To work out these claims, there was a land claim from somebody else earlier, years ago. So, so that's part of it. That's a conspiracy too. And so, and then, it's
weird.
Yeah, it's all weird. And I got kind of thrown off the rails here a little bit over the last little bit. So, but yeah, so it's like I said, that Bigfoot has sightings with UFOs that aren't really talked about, or there's this weird phenomenon that people report about, portals, or weird happenings that happen in and around sightings of these things. It doesn't happen everywhere, but there are reports of it. But those reports are either not taken by the whatever the establishment organization might be. They're just not reported, or they're altered in some way. So,
yeah.
But that is what it is. Anytime we're dealing with something like the Smithsonian or whatever, or any of these large groups that have their own agenda.
I was waiting to say, yeah.
Yeah, and then Cam, and then the big attractions at traveling carnivals like Barnum's was the Wild Man and the Caveman. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they'd have people like the Bearded Lady, and things like that.
Yeah.
So you have all these sideshow attractions. Yeah, Melvin is a good point there. They got the legends of unicorns from people who seen rhinos, and the best way they could describe them is being like a horse with a horn on its head. Yeah, that makes sense. Trying to describe that.
A horned horse, yeah.
A horn, yeah, exactly. Things like that. Yeah, and also the Griffin mythology.
Oh wow.
Allegedly came from skeletons. That do actually resemble a lion with the head of an eagle.
I did not know that.
I didn't either. Interesting.
I did not know that.
Very interesting. So, man, I'm going to call it. We're at 2.5 hours. I'm getting kind of tired, and I'm hungry now. It's like
I was waiting to say, you must be getting a bit peckish.
It's over 7:30 over there, isn't it?
It's 7:30 now. Yeah, I had my food before we came on, so since it was a bit later here today.
Thank you for coming on, my friend, and thank you to File 13 and T Bunny for coming on, and thank you to the Time Prophet, Melvin Deeply, Cam, Crash Courses, Abby Someone. We had some new ones in there. Let me scroll back up here and find. We had LDG was in the chat for a little bit early on.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm scrolling up here to try to get to those two new folks that was in the chat that was listening to us in the beginning. They seem to have probably gone to have lunch themselves. Yeah, that Blue Harvest Toys and Tanya Campbell. Thank you both for being in the chat today. Really appreciate you coming in and checking out. Hopefully you've subscribed to my channel. Normally, this isn't normally the link we do anymore. Started doing a shorter format with a more structured presentation. So today we decided, since it was April Fool's Day, April 1st, that I would do something a little more laid back and everything. So that's kind of what we did today. We ran.
It was the fake intro that took all the time.
Yeah. So it started out, running right out of the gate. So, but again, thank you, Tanya Campbell and Blue Harvest Toys for coming in. Again, LDG coming in, Melvin Deeply, Tanya, Abby Someone, Time Prophet for coming in, and Cam as well. Thank you so much for everybody being here. Please like, share, and please subscribe. And when you do subscribe, please make sure you hit the notification bell for all notifications. So that way you don't miss out, because YouTube is notorious for not sending out notifications. So we all know that from everybody who has a YouTube channel. Yeah, they're kind of selective. So, but again, sorry for it being so long today. Next week we'll have a regular one. I will say this month of April, I'm going to be taking 2 Saturdays off. And so I think it's going to be 2 weeks from today, and then probably 4 weeks from today. So the Saturdays I won't be doing a stream. I have relatives in town. I just won't have time during the week to work on anything, and of course I'll be spending the weekend with them. So but that's what's going on. So, but next we'll have another regular show next week. Hopefully we'll have a guest, and we'll have somebody in probably the comic book industry, or somebody who's a writer or something like that, or artist that we'll have as exactly. Last two we've had have been really great. We had Elliot Rodriguez on 2 weeks ago. Last week we had Luke Stone from Luke Stone Studios. He talked about the Fund My Comic website that he is created
He
for
was great.
crowdfunding.
He was great.
Yeah, crowdfunding for comics and video games and writers, books, and things like that. So go check that out. Fundmycomics.com. That's great for you people needing to get some crowdfunding done, and it's specifically for, like I said, video games, comic books, other illustrations, things like that. So you can avoid very good customer service. You can avoid a lot of hiccups, as some people have experienced with the other two major platforms. So great. Everybody, we'll see you next Saturday at the same time, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're in England, it'll be 5 p.m. UK. So it's an 8-hour difference now that you guys changed your clocks.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So I was kind of enjoying the 7-hour distance. You know, it was a little closer, but now we're 8. So yeah. But yeah, and thanks again, Krill, for being on. I really appreciate you being on.
Thanks for having me. Thank you
And,
for having me as always.
Yeah, and again, everybody out there, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. And everybody have a great weekend and do something awesome. We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.